Look, let's start in 6-5A. We can just kind of run through them here. Obviously the big game last night, Mandeville and St. Paul's, kind of, district title on the line there. St. Paul's gets the win there. They pull that one out, 31-24. It's a pretty close game. Before I give St. Paul's their flowers, I once again have to give Crew Calora total credit. As a freshman, he goes to St. Paul's. He's 22 of 26, 231 yards, a touchdown and an interception. He runs for another 88 yards and a touchdown. That's a freshman in 5A football at St. Paul's, right? Kudos to him. It's going to be fun to watch him kind of, going down the stretch there and doing what he does. St. Paul's, look, it's not boring. It's the same old story. It's Cody Corrales, 23 carries, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns. Brady Pearson's very efficient, 7 of 12, 72 yards. They throw it when they need to. Great game, great environment in Covington. It essentially sets up St. Paul's for the district championship. They've got Covington next week. So that'll be a good game. But Covington will win the district championship there. So moving on to the Covington game. Covington's at Ponchatoula. I talked about this on Sunday with Cass Hargis on our show. Intriguing matchup. Don't look at Ponchatoula's record. Look at who they are. They're big up front. They're physical. They've got some talent. Covington goes to Ponchatoula last night and loses 14-24. Big game for them. For Ponchatoula, they've got some talent. They've got some athletes. I don't have their stats yet, but I'll give you some intriguing stuff that I do have from last night. Covington ran the ball for 239 yards on 15 carries. They averaged 16 yards a carry. They had another 110 passing. So they had 349 yards of offense last night, came away with 14 points. They had another, I think, like 9 tackles for loss. I don't know how that game went, but all I have is a score at this point and some stats. But kudos to Ponchatoula for continuing to fight. I'll talk about this a lot. Slidell did the same thing last year. Slidell kind of going into that last 2 weeks, kind of down and out, and it was a program builder, and it's kind of slingshot them to where they are now. So that's big time. And then lastly, another massive matchup that I thought was maybe the most intriguing matchup of the week, which was Salmon at Hammond. Salmon comes off the huge victory at Slidell, which you think, okay, now what's coming up, right? Can the boys refocus? They go to Hammond, and Hammond doubles them up 40-20. I did get to see some of that last night. Zaylen Bennett made some big runs. Taryn Jones, quarterback, made some good throws. Donut with another touchdown. Reginald Monroe. Well played by Hammond. To keep Salmon to 20 points, I don't know how many times they've been kept to that total all year, but it goes to show you how good Hammond could be. And now let's look and say, okay, does that mean St. Paul's is really that good? Because St. Paul's kind of put it on Hammond, right? So it's an interesting matchup. It's a phenomenal district. It always is. And you can see night in and night out, everybody's got to be ready. Hammond and Ponchatoula, Ponchatoula had their years of runs. They haven't been that great the last few years. Hammond's been on the brink, and now they're kind of breaking through. So excited about that district and continue to cover that there, Marshall.
And just asking you real quick. So, and you may have already said this. So is St. Paul's sitting atop of that district after week 9?
Yeah, they're undefeated in district play. Everybody else has at least one loss, and Covington has now 2 losses. So doesn't matter what happens at St. Paul's. St. Paul's won that district.
All right, let's keep it moving. District 7, 5A.
Yeah, so Thursday night, a phenomenal game. Slidell's at Chalmette. Once again, I'm super intrigued by this matchup. I won't say similar teams because the way that Chalmette plays defense is elite. They've got guys at all levels that could do really well. Slidell goes in there. They put up 36 points. Now, one of those touchdowns was in overtime. No starting quarterback. Ricky Williams is out, and no Jeremiah Birdlow. So Stanley Lang comes in at quarterback, his second game. has a great game. Look, I have to give credit to Mike Thompson, wide receiver, makes a huge catch. Carlos Flemings gets behind the secondary again and makes it. The Slidell defense, they gave up some yardage in certain situations, but they kind of buckled down when they needed to. That game goes into overtime. Slidell gets the ball first. They score, and then get the 2-point conversion after a penalty. So then Chalmette, I think it's on the second play of overtime. Slidell makes a great play and intercepts the ball to kind of end the game. But for Chalmette, another big night from Breeze Wilson at quarterback. Dana Antoine popped off again. For Chalmette, I think it's a little bit of, and I know it's week 9, and I keep saying this about Chalmette, but it's continuing to find that running game outside of Breeze Wilson, right? What running back can give them kind of some consistency? And I don't think it's a one guy thing, right? But how well can they run the ball outside of Breeze Wilson running it? But that was a big one. Northshore heading to Fontainebleau, that's a big one. Coach Sanders, he's got that crew rolling. Another big game from J.J. Gonzalez, their quarterback, who he's had a couple of these this season, but he ran for 125 yards and a touchdown last night. Ramon Williams, only 10 carries and 46 yards, 2 touchdowns. I don't think they needed him that much. But I've got to give Fontainebleau some credit. They keep fighting. Logan Astigue's back at quarterback after some injuries. He threw for 200 yards and a touchdown. They've got some really young talent. Sawyer Shane, the sophomore, he's an incredible baseball player. He had a 61-yard touchdown reception last night. And then Connor Tyson comes back to kind of his true spot, not having to play Wildcat quarterback for them. He has 8 catches for 88 yards. So really, really proud of those guys. They're gonna keep fighting. And that matches up a huge matchup next week, North Shore and Slidell, which might be our game of the week.
Yeah, and we've heard you kind of start hearing coaches talking about the run game that they're wanting to set up. As like last night was the first game where everybody was cold, putting on jackets. So that run game is going to become all the more important. Looking at District 7 4A, Franklinton gets a win last night. Lakeshore gets a win last night. Those have been kind of the top, the 2 teams throughout the past couple of years that met in the playoffs and been players there. But Pearl River with a win as well. But Titans and Demons might be on a collision course again.
Yeah, look, as much as I'd hate to see it, and I'd love to see it at the same time, but Franklinton gets a big win last night at Loranger. Loranger's a good physical football team. Coach Paul's got those guys on the right track, and they're very competitive. I don't think Ryland James played again last night. Jacob Crane, I believe he had 2 touchdown passes to Jaden Burkhalter. DeMicus McLean obviously, probably did his stuff as well. The Lakeshore Hannon game, it's kind of close early halftime. I want to say it was maybe a 14-7 game, something like that at halftime. And Lakeshore does what they do in the second half. They figured out what was going to work and what they needed to do, and they did it right. So kudos to them. Odra Gross, who I'm enamored with, he plays both sides of the ball. He's a fullback and linebacker. He ran for over 100 yards. Brody Loudermilk, very efficient, another 90 yards on the ground and a touchdown. I haven't mentioned this kid a lot, but Dylan Kusak's a very talented running back. It kind of gets the ball sparingly and has kind of come on the scene as of late, but he ran for almost 100 yards, another 2 touchdowns. And then a young one, Gareth Hernandez, runs for 90 yards and a touchdown. So once again, Lakeshore does what Lakeshore does, and they just continue to plug guys in and play them and do what they do. Pearl River, that's a good win for them. That Pope team's a good team, and they're physical. Once again, another close game at halftime. Pearl River just leaned on them a little bit late. Pope had some mistakes late that kind of cost them, but Gage Duran at Pearl River. If you don't know that young man, look him up. He's fun to watch. He's 6 foot, 230 pounds, and he runs the ball downhill. He ran for over 200 yards and a couple touchdowns last night. So big impressive win for Pearl River, and continue to build that program.
Yeah, I believe Franklinton has Han in week 10. I forget exactly who Lakeshore has in week 10, but that'll be it'll take the whole season to figure out who's going to come atop that district.
Oh, yeah.
Moving on to 3A, which this has been a really fun district to cover this year. Sumner gets a win on Thursday night, I believe, another big win. Cowboys just keep rolling.
Yeah, look, 9-0 now. That makes them 19-2 over the last 2 years. So they know how to win. Their offense is, predicated around the run game, the wing T, but they can throw it when they need to. Jamon Dyson, wing back, slot back kind of guy. He can really get it. They've got a fullback that runs the ball really hard and has got a lot of yards too. They play defense very sound. It's a tough district, right? And for me, this is, in my mind, it might be the game of the year. Jules Sumner at a meet next week. It's going to be a phenomenal environment. I don't want to discredit Pine. Pine's kind of sitting at third behind those two guys, and Pine's a really good football team. Their 2 losses come to Sumner and a meet in district play. So, Albany's getting better. Springville's, kind of still building that program, and Bogalusa got a win last week. But I got to give some credit to some Pine guys too. We haven't highlighted those guys enough, but they ran the ball really well last night. Cooper Thomas, 60 yards, 2 touchdowns. Brady Riles had a touchdown and 50 yards. Braxton Newman has 4 carries for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's not a bad night. And their quarterback, Trey Knight, a couple carries and a touchdown. And Chris Williams, who is their all everything, kind of fullback and linebacker, only had 2 carries for 40 yards and a touchdown. So big night for them. The big game next week in that district. It's Jules Sumner and Amy playing for the district championship.
Yeah, I'll give you credit there, Mike. At the beginning of this season, you talked about District 8 3A, and I will admit at the time I was like, okay.
Yeah, whatever.
About St. Paul's and Mandeville. But gosh, 8 3A, that's been the best district this year, arguably.
It has. And if you meet those coaches and you get around those players in those programs, you see why. Like this has been kind of a prime thing for a couple years of those guys continuing to evolve. Ameet's got, Division I guys and they're very, very talented. They're well coached, same as Pine. I think all 3 of these teams can really make a run in the playoffs, and what better for that entire community in that area, right? I mean, we saw Franklinton last year, and it's kind of that whole area of ours that those small towns are so incredibly great with their programs. It's fun, man. If you guys haven't been able to get out and catch some of those games, if you get a chance during the playoffs, go check it out. It's a unique environment. It's one that you could be jealous of in other areas for sure.
I could not agree more. I've been around, to a lot of those communities and gotten some familiarity with them, and really just doing the show with you this season, learned about how good that district is, particularly this year. I do fully agree with you that between Pine, Amite, and Jules Sumner, you have several playoff wins coming up in that district. So we'll see how that shakes out. Looking at 2A really quick, we've got another slate of games that took place there. And while the Wolverines took the driver's seat after the Pope John Paul win, we still got a lot that these teams have to figure out, not necessarily for 9-2A, but again, the word that we keep talking about, playoffs. What are these teams doing? In my opinion, this next week is kind of determined. Look, what kind of momentum are you taking into the postseason?
Yeah, and look, the St. Helena North Lake game last night, it's an incredible football game. Hats off to St. Helena for getting that win. They've been due for that for a couple years now. They've always played North Lake really close. They're a really talented football team. That game is 30-8 at halftime. Okay. North Lake comes out their first 2 drives, decides to run the ball again, runs it right down the field. North Lake has the ball on the 4 or 5 yard line with 2 seconds left. Throw a pass, it's incomplete. Defense makes a really good play. And what an environment, what a night, what a great game for District 9-2A. I think North Lake's going to be fine. I think they found out who they were last night. I'll give you a really neat stat that you'll like. In the first half of that game, remember it's a 30-8 ball game in the first half, Cam Kasnave has 4 carries for 6 yards. In the second half, he has 14 carries for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. It kind of tells you everything you need to know about who North Lake is. They need to ride number 2. Quarterback Sam Grant, he's throwing it when he needs to. Charlie Gilmore had a good game. But this North Lake defense is primed for a playoff run. And when they give the ball to the guys in the running game and stick to that, and the offensive line does what they need to do, it can be a long playoff run. Look, we talk about it all the time. The running game and defense wins playoff games, especially deep in the playoffs. So Northlake's going to be fine. I think sometimes those losses they hurt really bad, but they pay off during the end. And then Independence, they get a big win against STA, and Northlake hosts Independence next week. So another great matchup, another opportunity for both these teams to kind of get ready for the playoff run.
Just I was able to look this up while you were covering District 9 2A. So Destrehan gets the win over Hahnville last night. Hahnville gets Lakeshore in week 10. So we'll get the River Parish report from you real quick. Destrehan and Hahnville. That was, that's a game that you've been talking about for a couple weeks now.
Well, look, North Shore fans, don't be upset, but it's the Destrehan helmet behind me here today. So as a former Wildcat, really, really happy for Coach Scott and that crew. They get a big win against Hahnville. I'll tell you what, don't overlook this. Another phenomenal game next week is Destrehan hosts Thibodaux for the district championship. So Thibodaux got a big win last night as well. So over Terrebonne, which was, maybe not an upset. Coach Narcisse has that crew really rolling at Thibodaux. But for Destrehan, to touch on them, everybody knows about Jackson Fields, their dynamic wide receivers and what they do there. Malachi Dabney, their running back, he kind of came on kind of midseason last year and had some big games. He's over 1,000 yards. He ran for 242 yards on 26 carries last night. So to me, for that Destrehan offense, if they can run the ball like that, they're going to be so hard to defend. It reminds me a little bit of Ash last year, right? Like they could throw it whenever they wanted to, but it was important for them to establish the running game and go do that. So that was kind of a big one for obviously the area, River Parishes, Destrehan to go get that win over Hahnville. Great environment over there on the West Bank. So and another great one next week. It never stops. It's Destrehan hosting Thibodaux for a district championship.
Before we get you out of here, Mike, and man, thank you so much for getting all that coverage for us in just a short amount of time. Let us know about the new preview programming that you got going to the North Shore Prep Report.
Yeah, so we'll check our YouTube channel out, North Shore Prep Report on YouTube. We'll host this stuff and we do our recaps every week, and then we'll have a preview show every week as well. And then look, I'm really excited. We get to next week kind of start talking playoff brackets and matchups, and that's where I think a show like yours is so important, because we do have people from all around the state that we can really get insight on every team, right? And that's going to be fun. That's going to be a really fun matchup. So or show to have. So we're excited about it. I think on the North Shore we've got plenty of teams playing for it. It's almost playoff time. It's week 10, so we're kind of scratching that itch a little bit to get to the playoffs, and everybody's staring at power rankings and where's everybody going to be. So we'll see how it folds out, but we're excited.
Well, I'll get you out of here now, but I'll be bugging you all weekend along as I usually.
Hey, Marshall, lastly, big win for Carr last night over John Curtis. John Curtis played really well. They actually threw the ball well in that game. Closer game than the score indicated. John Curtis is there. So, once again, you get to the playoffs, and there might be 3 or 4 teams from the Catholic League that make big, long runs. So it'll be interesting.
Yep, bring it on. We'll be here for all of it. Thank you so much, Mike. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Marshall. Have a good one.
Yep, you too. Thanks to Mike McMillan, North Shore Prep Report. Big game, that Covington had last night, taking the loss, and a lot to keep up with there. And again, District 8 3A, that's going to be an awesome one to follow.